McCarthyism is remembered by historians as a chapter in Irish American life where the government's list could ruin an entire life. The machinery that drove blacklisting was rarely formal. Accusations against the powerless circulated behind closed doors, with legal rationality collapsing under the pressure of fear mongering. You don't want to get close to her. Their lives destroyed, one rumor at a time. Black Americans were especially vulnerable, subjected not only to racial prejudice, but to an extra layer of political scrutiny, denied livelihoods, and silenced by threats both direct and veiled. Supposed subversives were branded, coerced into confessions, blacklisted from higher education, and excluded from opportunity, often with the encouragement and sometimes the collusion of state agents, such as the omnipresent Federal Bureau of Investigations and the Police Service of Northern Ireland, both who have a troubling history of devastating lives from behind the drapes of the institution. The reality that the list exists and you might be on it persists today and is the semiotics of policing morality and silencing dissent. I'm Kiana Canada, and this is Mimicking McCarthyism, an examination of an obstruction of justice, an encounter with a chief commissioner at the Human Rights Institution named Alyson Kilpatrick, and the troubling question of whether the institutions designed to protect human rights are aiding, and abetting oppression. It is against this backdrop of institutional exclusion that I met Alyson Kilpatrick, Chief Commissioner at the Northern Ireland Human Rights Commission. The occasion was the refugee picnic on Ormeau Road, Belfast, a site charged with hope and perhaps the liberation of exiled lives. I found Alyson walking her dog, who exuded quiet dignity, while the Commission's booth stood as an emblem of official commitments. My approach was friendly, Alyson's manner open yet circumspect, a reflection perhaps of the delicate choreography that public officials feel that they must perform when approached by citizens bearing the burdens of state power. I conveyed my deep concern. My case, I said, hadn't been fairly evaluated nor given the strategic consideration that human rights law demands. Alyson listened closely, acknowledged not recalling my case from the commissioner reviews, and offered her personal email, committing to a future meeting, one requiring more than the bureaucracy's perfunctory 15 minutes. Alyson, she did promise face to face to me with me after a week's absence, but when the agreed week came, Alyson was nowhere to be found. A receptionist alleged that Alyson had received more information and would no longer meet with me, news that was repeated via email. Where did Alyson get this information from, and from who? Alyson herself did not deliver the message, and it raises a question of why she declined to meet me. David Russell was known for filtering out cases that could spotlight Northern Ireland's human rights abuses, but the facts weren't leading to an internal interceder. Was Alyson acting to shield the interests of authority figures, or was pressure exerted by demographical logics? There are names thumbtacked on my bulletin board: Donald Hurley, a man rooted in Catholic Republican circles; Bradley Hill, a direct provision colluder I once seen praying on an Islamist prayer rug. But these two weren't in Northern Ireland. Or were they? Other names came to the fore: Nisos, embroiled in intimidating intelligence work in Belfast; Enzo, a possible provider of QUB hackers assisting Nisos; The PSNI, reputed for surveilling journalists and activists, deploying indirect methods of repression onto dissenting voices, and also making Christmas come early for informants and those who participated and facilitated the removal of students from higher education institutions who engaged in critical thought. It sounds Orwellian, I know. Thoughts policed. There was also the FBI attaché, a legacy of repression against Black Americans. Who got to Alyson? Alyson's refusal, whatever its proximate logic, served to obscure these dynamics, a choice contrary to the Paris Principles, which demanded that national human rights institutions foster transparency, raise public awareness of racial discrimination, and remain open to the public. As articulated in episode 2, there's also a legal dimension here. Aiding and abetting discriminatory acts is illegal under the Race Relations Order 1997 and is antithetical to the Commission's ethos. It will come as a disappointment to me to discover that Alyson may have aided and abetted a toxic authority figure in their state crimes. And so there are 3 reasons. One could have been institutional self-preservation. Alyson may have perceived my outspoken criticism, especially around morality policing in the Republic of Ireland and transnational repression here, as a reputational risk to the Commission and herself, leading her to step back under advice or pressure from state agents wary of controversy. 2, perhaps racialized gatekeeping. As a Black American navigating international protection, she may have viewed my identity as too political, inviting perhaps bureaucratic avoidance, less scrutiny generate broader discomfort within state and political circles. And then there's 3, informal blacklist. Alyson may have consulted informal networks to sift out claimants. My checkered past, vocal advocacy, and human rights claims against Queen's University Belfast could have placed me on an unofficial Irish exclusion list, echoing the logic of McCarthyism. However, there are 3 stronger reasons why the Commission must name the authority involved. Transparency against secrecy. Naming the agency or official applying McCarthyist tactics is essential to break the cycle of whisper campaigns and ensure accountability. This protects the Commission's legitimacy and offers justice to victims denied recourse. 2, deterring further victimization. By exposing Irish groups or agencies behind transnational repression, the Commission can counter repeat victimization and challenge normalized institutional racism. And 3, restoring public trust. Only by confronting the application of secretive exclusionary tactics by name can the Commission fulfill its duty to promote human rights awareness and openness, as mandated by the Paris Principles. Next week on Mimicking McCarthyism, we'll be looking into the Commission's submissions, determining whether human rights in Northern Ireland are practical and effective, or is it just theoretical? I'm Kiana Canada. We'll see you next week.